if it comes to that. So let's talk more about the fiscal cliff and the politics involved with CNN political contributor and Democratic strategist Paul Begala, as well as Doug Holtz-Eakin, president of the American Action Forum. Hello, gentlemen.
Evening.
Paul, first to you. So we have Treasury Secretary saying today that they're absolutely prepared to go over the cliff if it comes to that, if Republicans don't give on raising tax rates on the wealthiest Americans. Isn't that a pretty politically risky game to be playing here? Is this a negotiating tactic?
Frankly, well, I think it's real. I mean, I know it's real. The president campaigned, the sticking point is the rates. You're right, the president campaigned saying upper-income Americans should pay the same rate we paid under President Clinton, which of course was straight-up communism. America was a Marxist paradise under Clinton. There's no free enterprise. But the president said he's going to veto it, and he means it. And I'm quite sure he does. I've not talked to the president, but I've talked to people he's talked to directly about this on the Hill. And he has said to them, I'm not going to budge, period. And the Republicans will. You watch. They will. It may be after we go off the cliff. I hope not. I think it'd be terrible.
Doesn't it come back to bite the president?
It may well. I think not if you look at the polling today, but these things are dynamic. But he's going to do it. And so the Republicans are going to have to move on this. By the way, it's a position he's asking the Republicans to take that the country voted for and the country supports. He's not asking them to do something unpopular. He's asking them to do something that the country wants.
Newt Gingrich says that the country may be better off going over the fiscal cliff rather than accepting what the president wants.
I think going over the fiscal cliff is an unmitigated disaster. I mean, this is a recipe for a sharp recession. We're going to see markets plummet. We're going to see confidence plummet. We saw that in the debt ceiling debate. Taxes would go up, spending would get cut. It is a very perverse thing for a president to want to start both his terms in deep recession. So I can't believe he thinks this is a good thing.
So how do you avoid it, knowing where the president stands?
I think what the president has said is, I want a balanced plan, and Republicans have said, yes, if you show us a balanced plan, we can compromise and make a deal, and they've put out plans to do that, and we haven't seen it from the president. So I would encourage him to get serious on the spending side. We know where he is on taxes, it's not a mystery, but no one has any idea where he is on fixing the entitlements, where he is on getting the plan into balance, and thus having a concrete plan over which people can actually negotiate.
I'll get in, but if he does that, will the Republicans allow the upper income, those families making more than $250,000 a year, to go up to from 35 to 39.6% marginal tax rate?
You can't know the answer to that until you see what's on the other side. I mean, this has always been fundamentally, we need entitlement reforms, we need tax reforms, we know that. But you can't talk about one in the isolation from the other, and that's what we need to do.
In any way agree to that, though? I mean, they have staked their entire majority, really, on not raising taxes, and they're digging in here.
They have already put out plans which raise taxes on rich people. Speaker Boehner was very clear about saying that. And so now the question is that enough to satisfy the president? And you can't ask Republicans, will you vote for this in the abstract?
Yeah. The Republicans, they've moved $800 billion in additional tax revenue by capping loopholes, for example, or capping deductions.
Right, well, the number is, first off, it's way too little. The Simpson-Bowles Commission, I think, had $2.8 trillion in taxes, and the Speaker's proposing $800 billion. So he's way, way below where Alan Simpson and Ursula Bowles and other people who looked at this are. But it's not even just the 800. You can't, many people think you probably can't get that from capping deductions unless you really start eating into the middle class, or you start hammering churches and charities and universities, and you know, I think most Americans certainly wouldn't stand for that. The Republicans have to raise rates on the wealthiest 2%. Then we can get past the fiscal cliff and have a year-long discussion on tax reform, which we need, and spending cuts, which we need, and we can do all that, but we've got to get past this cliff, and the way to get past the cliff is for the Republicans to say, we'll raise the rates on the very rich.
Well, if you want to get past the cliff, what you should do, as a matter of just practical economics, is avoid any tax increases. We've already got tax increases from the Affordable Care Act. That are going to happen no matter what. Avoid sharp spending cuts, and then have a discussion in the spring. It's only been a political agenda that brought the raise higher taxes into the lame duck. That was always something they could have done in the spring. And the question is whether the president's political agenda will trump economic common sense and put us in a recession. That's it.
Just real quick, I want to ask you about the politics of it, though. When you take a step back, exit polls from the November election showed that 47% of Americans supported raising taxes on the wealthier Americans. A new poll out just yesterday, Washington Post Pew Research Center poll, showed that 53% of Americans would blame Republicans in Congress, not the president, if we went over the fiscal cliff. Republicans have got a problem there in terms of messaging and a PR problem.
They're perfectly cognizant of the polls. They understand the situation. Again, you heard the Speaker say today, we are prepared to get more revenue from the rich. Yeah. They made a tremendous move in the compromise proposal they put out, got no response from the White House, and essentially today a courtesy call. You know, they understand that the American people have asked for this, but they've also know the American people have asked for some leadership. The president was elected to lead. He's not doing it. They've asked for compromise. They want Washington to function. The president's uncompromising in his position. So there's a lot more left to be done on the other side as well.
They got 23 days, assuming
love a deadline.
they're ready to give up their Christmas vacation, just work between now and December 31st. But as you know, the stakes for so many Americans, all Americans, are enormous. Right now, they've got to get this done one way or another.
They'll be right up to the end.
As it usually is. Thank you, guys.
We'll have New Year's Eve here in the Situation Room.
You know what?
I'll bring the champagne.
We have some eye-opening new poll numbers coming into the Situation Room about, guess what, Hillary Clinton's presidential chances in 2016.